versions of the extraterrestrials that ultimately didn't work out, and then there was one where I was supposed to kind of enter this anti-gravity thing and go floating up, and it didn't really work because they didn't know how to do it.
When the little alien comes out at the end, the star alien that we get to actually, Truffaut gets to actually do the thing to, and they look and they smile, and it's a very sweet scene. They were doing it at that point with one of the young ballet students coming out in their alien costume and doing their best to make the sign and to communicate with Truffaut. It didn't really look that convincing. I mean, one of the problems I remember was that the rubber hands were just these rubber hands with long fingers. And when it went like this, you could kind of see the rubber crinkling up at the edges, and it was kind of hard to do. And the facial expressions weren't so great. So later on, when the movie was finished, we all came back months and months later on a stage in Los Angeles at Columbia, and we redid it with a wonderful, very articulated puppet that Colin Rambaldi built that could do millions of things, and was probably a forerunner to E.T. in some way. The way he worked, the way he moved, his great facial expressions, so you can really get close and cut back and forth between Truffaut and this great little E.T. that really didn't resemble the other E.T.s at all. It was like barely related to them, but it sure worked well.
I wanted to show that because we live on a planet where there's so many different races and colors and cultures on this world, I wanted to show that on the alien world there were also different races. So there was the race of the long, willowy Giacometti aliens, and then there was the race of the short, bulbous head aliens, and there was the race of the very skinny, almost ascetic alien. And I wanted to show that, like here, there are different races there.
The name of the book that I will never write is Stephen, Have They Figured Out Yet What I'm Looking Up in Awe At? Because throughout the movie Stephen hadn't figured out what it was that we were looking at.
The UFOs were done almost entirely after the principal photography was finished, because we just couldn't be in two places at the same time. But the preparation for the UFOs was all being built. We were outfitting a warehouse in Marina Del Rey. But it really wasn't until after principal photography was finished that we were able to get serious about being there all day, every day, and start shooting things with that. Some of the early tests, which were performed prior to my arrival on the film and sort of during my first few weeks on the film, were trying out flying saucers and mothership out on location, actually building a physical model, lighting it up, shooting it in smoke and moving it, and trying to take a live action approach to the effects. And one of the funniest rigs was on the mountaintop set when the flying saucers were to fly over with Rick and Melinda there right on the street. Roy Arbogast had built this huge steel rig with big arc lights on it and par lights and all kinds of bright, vivid lights on this metal rig that was hung from a cable on a crane. And the crane, which was behind the set, had to move this arm over the set. And Rick Dreyfuss and Melinda were all going to duck, when it went over. The trouble was the crane operator couldn't see them because it was on the other side of the set and the crane was reaching way over and it was actually abandoned. And so we shot those scenes with a 65mm camera. We had an off-camera arc light that would pass a pool of light past them, and they'd all look at some non-existent thing fly by. And everybody was keeping their fingers crossed because we hadn't shot one working saucer at that time. It was all for post-production. I think at the time when we started, pretty much everybody on the film who had anything to do with design or production design had certainly seen a lot of purported photographs of flying saucers. Everybody knew they were supposed to be a disc, and they were supposed to have a little bubble on the top or whatever. It was kind of a 50s mindset about what a flying saucer would look like, and that's where we all started. And as soon as we could see that on film, you could see that it was a disappointing effect. Stephen had this idea that the UFOs were trying to kind of emulate things that they saw on Earth to make us happy or make us feel comfortable. And so one of the UFOs we built was golden arches that looked like a McDonald's sign. And it was an ellipsoidal shaped UFO that was like one of the single arches. But when two of them flew together and sort of converged for a minute, you'd see this kind of McDonald's logo fly by. But there was another logo that was kind of a trapezoid shaped thing that when two of them lined up, it became a Chevron logo for Standard Oil. And there was a 76, a globe, a round orange 76 sign. It was never quite a 76 sign, but it was an orange spherical UFO. Those, I think, were a little over the top and were never finished and not put in the film. And I think it was only until then, and Stephen saying, what if it just sort of looked like a 747 coming straight at you with its landing lights on. You can't really see the fuselage, but you see these bright lights in your face. It's sort of like a plane landing at LAX. And you said, oh, that sounds good. We'll try that. And that idea of Stevens sort of led to the smoke room. And the smoke room was really an idea of how to create a miniature atmosphere. Because if you saw a plane